You're watching Primetime News. Up next is Action TV.
When Action TV made inquiries from the Minister of Wildlife Resource Conservation last Thursday regarding the resurfacing of a 22-kilometre stretch of road across some of the lushest land of the Madhuroye Reserve, disregarding warnings from the Director General of Wildlife of harm to flora and fauna, the Minister proceeded to give us an interpretation of what exactly harm is. When a mother gives milk, she is harmed. When she gives birth, she is harmed. Marriage also causes damage. This is satisfactory harm. Do not worry about satisfactory harm.
නේද? ඒවා ඉතින් අර තෘප්තිමත් හානි. තෘප්තිමත් හානියක් නම් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. තේරෙනවද? ඒ ගැන දුක් වෙන්න එපා.
Action TV pointed out that as a result of the minister's interpretation of harm, wildlife officers would face difficulties when attempting to enforce wildlife laws and regulations in the future. Nevertheless, the fundamental problem facing wildlife officials is not the inability to secure interpretations of words, but the fact that they are being made to follow the orders of higher-ups who have no comprehension of the ground reality. This is one such command. This order, issued by the Secretary to the Ministry of Wildlife and Agrarian Services when he was the Acting Director General of Wildlife, has not been implemented to this day because an official lower down the pecking order who knows the ground reality has disregarded it as it violates the Wildlife Act. The official is the Assistant Warden of the Angamadilla National Reserve in Polonnaruwa. Through this letter addressed by the Ministry Secretary during his tenure as the Acting Director General of Wildlife, he asked the Alahara Divisional Secretary to grant a license to a person nominated by him to remove sand washed up in the Angamadilla Reserve due to rain. The Secretary also notes in his letter that the stockpile of sand is harmful to the reserve. A letter addressed by the Assistant Warden to his superiors established that he found out about the plan to remove the sand deposit from the reserve through the farmers' organization in the area. In his letter, the Assistant Warden notes that while there is no sand deposit that has been washed up in the reserve as a result of rain, as claimed by the Ministry Secretary, he also notes that the removal of the sand deposit, cited by the Secretary as important to preserving the reserve, will actually harm kumbuk trees in the reserve. However, as stated in this letter, the Assistant Warden now has to be obedient to the licensee who has secured a license to remove the sand. As commanded by the licensee, a section of the electric fence surrounding the reserve has also been removed and replaced with a gate at the expense of the Wildlife Department. This has been done to allow access for machinery and vehicles to remove the sand deposit. Although they may be unable to interpret the damage that could be caused by this, the Alahara Divisional Secretariat, the Director General of Wildlife and the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau have failed to consider the protests raised by villagers who live in close proximity to the reserve regarding the damage that could be caused. The sand mining permit has been obtained under the name of the son of a Alahara Pradeshya Sabha member's sister. There are about 800 to 830 families living in the village. If anything happens to the electric fence, then all these people will be affected by elephant incursions. Has the satisfactory damage that will be caused to the flora and fauna of the Angamadilla Reserve and the lives of the people living around it been identified? If so, how? Minister of Wildlife Resource Conservation, this one is over to you.
The 85th Academy Awards promises to be an elegant affair with glamorous celebrities, fashionable frocks and priceless jewelry promenading down the large red carpet outside the Dolby Theatre.
So why would the winners' names be printed on just any old piece of paper? News first Shaheen Jurangpati and Katrina Chang find out on tonight's segment on the Oscars.
This year, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has brought back the designer of the exclusive Oscar envelopes and hold the names of the winners of Hollywood's biggest prize. Designed by Mark Friedland and first used during the 2011 ceremony as well as in 2012, the envelopes are handcrafted from a high-gloss iridescent metallic gold paper stock with a red lacquered lining featuring the Oscar statue hand-stamped in satin gold leaf. The outside of the envelope and flap is an Art Deco inspired satin gold foil frame, which inside contains a heavyweight card featuring gold accents along with the phrase,
"And the Oscar goes to."
And the Oscar goes to.
When I design for clients, I really try to capture the personality and the essence of what it is that we are working on. And we really help clients mark the moment? Well, for the Oscars and the Academy Awards, we wanted something that was going to be timeless yet very chic and relevant, that was also that captured kind of the glamour of old Hollywood, but still done in a very kind of clean, modern way as well.
This year's ceremony marks the 72nd anniversary of the use of the sealed envelope to announce Oscar winners. Yet until now, there has never been a specially designed envelope to mark the occasion. Other elements of the envelopes include security measures to ensure its authenticity.
Starting off some sports news with some good news. The Sri Lanka women's cricket team defeated their South African counterparts by 88 runs today to secure the number 5 spot in the Women's ICC Cricket World Cup. This is incidentally the highest achievement recorded by a Sri Lanka women's cricket team in history.
The Sri Lanka women's team, who won the toss and elected to bat first, posted 243 for the loss of 7 in their allotted 50 overs in Cuttack, India. Chamari Atapattu scored 52, while skipper Shashikala Siriwardena scored 44. Deepika Rasangika and Ashani Lokusuriya scored 43 runs each. The South African women, batting in reply, fell short of their target as they were bundled out for 156 runs in 40.1 overs. Shashikala Siriwardena was the pick of the Lankan bowlers, ending up with figures of 4 for 31.
Then for the finals, but I think as we expected, we couldn't be in the first 4 in the world rankings, but for the first time, we have achieved the 5th place of world ranking. So, as a team and management and all the on behalf of all the players, I'm really happy, and I would like to thank all the Sri Lankans who have supported us so far.
The inaugural 2-day cricket tournament for the Ranil Abenayaka Memorial Trophy commenced at the St. Thomas's College grounds today. St. Thomas's College, who won the toss, elected to bat first. Dravid Bongsu scored 22 runs. Lakshan Jaisinghe bagged 3 wickets for 17 runs for the Trinitians. St. Thomas's College scored 107 runs in 51.1 overs. The Trinitians, batting in their first innings, were 30 for 1 at stumps today.
And finally, South African Blade Runner Oscar Pistorius broke down in tears after he was charged in court today with shooting dead his girlfriend in his Pretoria house yesterday.
The 26-year-old Olympic and Paralympic superstar stood with his head bowed in front of Magistrate Desmond Nair to hear the murder charge read out, then started sobbing, covering his face with his hands. Prosecutors told the Pretoria court they would argue that the shooting of 30-year-old model Riva Steenkamp was premeditated. The case has stunned a nation that reveres the fastest man on no legs as a hero who triumphed over adversity to compete with able-bodied athletes at the highest level of sport. Pistorius is a double amputee who became one of the biggest names in world athletics. Police said that Riva Steenkamp, a model and regular on the South African party scene, was found shot dead in Pistorius's plush home in the middle of a heavily guarded gate complex in the northern outskirts of the South African capital. Media reported that she had been hit 4 times in the head, chest, pelvis and hand. Pistorius said nothing during the 40-minute court hearing. His father, Henke, and brother Carl sat directly behind him in the packed courtroom, occasionally leaning forward to give him a pat on the shoulder. The hearing was adjourned until the 19th of February and Pistorius will remain in custody.
And with that, we wrap up this edition of your Primetime News Bulletin. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Mahina Bongso. Have a great weekend ahead. Good night.